He thought it would be just another routine stop, a few threats, a bit of humiliation, all on his terms. But when he opened my trunk and froze, staring at a document that would change his life forever, I knew. The show had only just begun. Sometimes, the predator becomes the prey. And this night would be one he'd never forget. You know those moments when you feel something's off even before it happens? Like when the air gets too still before a storm? Yeah, that was me driving down Main Street. The rain was drizzling, my windshield wipers doing their best to keep up, and everything felt off. I was on my way home after a long day, the kind where your brain feels like mush, and all you want is a hot shower and silence. Then I saw them, red and blue lights flashing in my rearview mirror, a police cruiser. "Here we go," I muttered under my breath. I wasn't speeding, my taillights were fine and my plates were legit. So what was the deal? Oh wait, I knew what it was. Driving while black. Classic. I pulled over, my hands already at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel because we all know the drill. The cop car parked, and I watched as this big guy in a pressed uniform stepped out. His boots crunched on the wet pavement. His whole vibe screamed, "I run this town." And honestly, I was already exhausted. "License and registration," he barked as he reached my window. No hello. No good evening. Just straight to business. His tone wasn't asking, it was commanding, like I'd already done something wrong. "Good evening, officer," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Can I ask why you pulled me over?" "You're driving suspiciously slow," he said, squinting at me like I'd just insulted his mother. I blinked. Suspiciously slow? Is that even a thing? "It's raining," I said. "I'm just being careful." He leaned in closer, water dripping off the brim of his hat. "Careful, huh? You got something to hide in this car, pal?" There it was. That word. Pal. Not sir. Not mister. Just pal. Delivered with enough condescension to fill a football stadium. "Officer, I don't have anything to hide," I said calmly. "Everything's in order." I reached slowly, emphasis on slowly, to grab my license and registration from the glove compartment. The last thing I needed was him thinking I was reaching for a weapon. He snatched the papers from my hand and glanced over them like he couldn't be bothered. "Stay right here," he ordered, stomping back to his cruiser. I watched him in my side mirror, half expecting him to call for backup or pull some kind of stunt. Something about him just screamed this isn't going to end well. When he came back, he looked irritated, like he'd been hoping for a reason to escalate things and hadn't found one. "Step out of the vehicle," he said. "What's the reason, officer?" I asked, keeping my tone polite but firm. "I've done nothing wrong." "Step out of the vehicle," he repeated, emphasizing each word like I was hard of hearing. I sighed and complied because, let's be honest, arguing wasn't going to help. I stepped out into the drizzle, the cold wetness soaking through my jacket almost immediately. "Open the trunk," he demanded, gesturing to the back of my car. "Officer, with all due respect, you need a warrant for that," I said. His face twisted into a smirk, the kind that made my stomach churn. "You see, that's where you're wrong. I can check whatever I damn well please." "Actually, no, you can't," I replied, my voice steady. But he wasn't listening. He was already heading to the trunk, fumbling with his keyring like he owned the car. "Officer, you're violating my rights," I said louder, but he ignored me completely, popping the trunk open like it was his personal treasure chest. That's when he spotted it. A sleek gray document case, sitting neatly in the corner of the trunk. "What's this?" he asked, his tone suddenly shifting to curiosity mixed with suspicion. "Personal property," I said sharply. "You have no right." But he was already reaching for it. My heart pounded as he unlatched the case and opened it. For a split second, I wanted to laugh at how eager he looked, like a kid unwrapping a birthday present. Then his expression froze. His face turned the color of chalk, as his eyes scanned the document lying neatly on top. Whatever confidence he'd had evaporated in an instant. His jaw tightened, and his hands trembled slightly as he held the paper closer to his face. "Officer William Reynolds," I said, watching the realization dawn on him. "Now, do you want to explain why you just violated the rights of your new boss? Let me tell you something about people like Reynolds. They don't know when to quit. Seriously, the guy was acting like he'd just cracked the biggest case of his life, and all he had to show for it was my trunk, full of absolutely nothing. Well, nothing except for that gray document case. When I saw him pull it out, I felt this weird mix of frustration and excitement. Yeah, I'll admit it. There was a part of me that was curious to see how this would play out. Because Reynolds, he had no idea the storm he just walked into. "What's in here, huh?" he asked, holding up the case like it was some kind of trophy. "Put it down," I said, keeping my tone as calm as possible, even though inside I was screaming. "That's private property, and you're way out of line." He ignored me, big shock there, and popped the latches on the case. It opened with a soft click, and he flipped it up to look inside. That's when the magic happened. His eyes landed on the top sheet of paper, and you'd think he'd just seen a ghost. "Wait a minute. What the hell is this?" he muttered. His voice had lost that cocky edge, and now he sounded nervous. Oh, how the tables had turned. "What's the matter, Officer Reynolds?" I asked, leaning casually against my car. "Something catch your eye?" He didn't answer. His hands were shaking as he held the paper closer to his face. I could see the big, bold letters at the top of the document from where I stood. Notice of termination. Beneath that was his name, clear as day, followed by a list of offenses that would make anyone think twice about hiring this guy for so much as a babysitting gig. "Dude, this can't be real," he stammered. "Oh, it's real," I said. "Signed by Chief David Mitchell." Reynolds looked at me, panic in his eyes. You're Michael Carter?" "That's right, your new boss."